Hello, hello.
Hey.
Hello, everybody. There's a new face. Hanny is not in the building.
Where is she, by the way?
She's actually gone to her high school reunion.
That sounds like fun. I can't imagine I would want to go to mine. Is that bad? But I don't ever want to go to a high school reunion.
Well, I don't know if you're aware, she recently moved back to Europe from the United
Oh,
States.
I didn't know. I thought she was in Pennsylvania still.
No, she's living in Spain.
Um,
And so she's closer to her, Slovakia and all that. So she's back there for her little high school reunion. So
I need
hello,
to.
everybody. Let me introduce Callye of Sweet Sugarbelle. I am almost 100% certain that if you make cookies, you own one of her cookie cutters. So let me we usually run down, Callye, the faces that are joining us. Kathy, hello, Byron, Kim, Joe, hello, Angie, hello, June. Oh, Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
Julie, Sally, hello, Sally.
Hi.
Cynthia, Lynn, Rena, Shanna, Veronique, Emily. All right, welcome everybody. So Callye and I are old, literally and figuratively friends.
Yeah. We're
So
old
we
friends.
have a visit and a walk down memory lane. Okay?
Do you realize it's been like 13 or 14 years now? Is
The
that not?
years have flown by.
Yeah.
By.
Or whenever you mentioned that Ryan, is that right? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Did you say 18?
My baby is 18.
Oh,
Yes.
that's weird.
It
That's
is weird.
yeah.
It is weird, but I mean, that's one of the things that we cannot avoid with that
No.
joke, a death in taxes. So we just keep on getting older, but we get better, right?
Yes, I actually enjoy the growing up. Whenever you have 3 stair-step kids at once, I appreciate the growing up and even spreading their wings because
Yes.
my husband and I joke that our teenagers are like bad roommates that we can't kick out. They eat our food, they make messes, they borrow our stuff without asking.
Chip in on the rent.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, Julie is saying she loves you.
Hi.
Thanks, Jeremy. Hello, Fabiola.
Oh, thank you.
That's very nice, Byron. Thank you. His oldest is moving to 4th grade. Yes, those are exciting times too. Hello, Mary Jean. So I thought it would be fun for Callye to kind of tell us about her, just a little story, like her story. I love Callye's story. It's kind of a dream, really, right? To a degree, wouldn't you say? Was it a bit of a dream?
I tell people it's beyond my wildest dreams because I didn't even imagine that for myself. Like I was probably about here and it ended up here for
That's
the
amazing.
part. Yeah, I'm very fortunate. Like a lot of it, the first thing I tell people, I did work hard. I hustled. I did a lot of work.
Absolutely.
But a lot of it was luck and good fortune and good friends, things like that. But anyway, I started out as a young mother of 3 kids, and I'll try to keep this short. I could take an hour. And I needed something that was my own because like the mom stuff was kind of mindless at that point, almost assembly line style. And so I started picking up all the hobbies that I'd never had time to do before. And that was like, just crafting, any sort of, I did a lot of sewing, things like that. And then around Christmas time, I was like, I've always wanted to make those decorated cookies. I'm going to do it. And I made them for Christmas and gave them out as gifts. And after about 2 Christmases of that, people started saying, hey, could you make these for parties? And I was like, I don't know, but I'll try. And that's how this was born. And
this photo, I'm just going to pop it up. Is this one of your first Christmas projects?
Yes, I am so glad you're on it. And you better believe I was so proud of those. And, You know how we were talking about our styles and how they
Yes.
develop over time? I was laughing because I actually see, like, I used sprinkles, like, you know how I like sprinkle accents? So
Yes.
even though the more that has changed, the more it's stayed the same because I'm still doing the things that now it's kind
You see some of the style that stayed. Well,
yes, like,
I'm
and
seeing here this one that you popped on. So this is kind of the part of the story too of when we started to like
that's
get
the
to know
first
each
one.
other, right?
Um,
When you were kind of mass producing, you were saying people were asking you, can you make these for parties?
Exactly. And it's funny because that I didn't even plan on joining Flickr. I decided to join Flickr because my mom pushed it. And of course, like I don't like to listen to my mom back then. I'm getting to the age where I see how right she was. But I joined Flickr, and I think you and Pam Sneed were the first people that I met. And
Virtually met, yes.
I think I was kind of like really planning it or thinking it out in my head. And I think that you were my first teacher. Like if I asked you a question, you would tell me. And not even knowing what we were asking back then, like I
Yes. Because I didn't consider myself to be at any like level to be teaching anybody anything at that
you
point.
did, I think were they Lady Gaga purses? I
Yes, yes,
I
yes,
clearly remember them, and they had metallic hardware, and I was like,
yes.
how did you do that? And I think about how things would have been differently if you were like, I'm not telling you, figure it out. Like some of the things we run into a little bit
Yeah.
more often these days, like you really had a big part in creating the community that we became because of your willingness to say, hey, this is what I did. And
Well, the climate I felt was different. Like,
oh, did we not have so much fun? We were just delighted with each other. Like,
well, I think one of the things is now I love the comments. Everybody's super sweet even today, but it's never a familiar face. Like it's always a different set of people. And I find that back on Flickr, it was always the same ladies. And so you got to know, Pam, and you got to know Marianne, and you'd see the thumbnails and you knew who it was. And so you could get to know, but if it's constantly new faces, right? It's hard to create a relationship,
yeah,
right?
sometimes I think like the connection just isn't the same. That was like the foundation of us. We had a connection, I think.
Yes.
And I even thought about that. Like Pam kind of connected us, like outwardly on the Flickr platform. And then
Yes.
I'm more of a one-on-one person. And so I would talk individually to each of you all, and I would think, oh, they need to be friends. They have a lot in common. And that's how the groups developed, what we,
It was
but
just it's a very different way to make friends. And now I find that there's just so much, it's like going to a wedding almost, right? And
yeah,
sitting in this like long table as opposed to a smaller table, like I
yes.
guess.
And it's not a good way to connect with everybody. Like you'll make friends with the person right beside you. And that's hard for me. I still miss those days where I can come
Me
through.
too, I have to say. Some of my most cherished memories really was back then. Oh, hi, Amber.
Oh, Amber's here. Hi, Amber.
Hello. Okay, so talked
Okay.
about, you mentioned the getting together and getting to know each other. Should we pop this photo up?
Yeah, isn't that fun?
It is a fun photo. So you basically created that um, Cookie Queen group, if I recall, right?
Yes. I wanted everybody to talk because I was basically saying, hey, so and so said this, you would like her. And I thought, I'm the middleman. Let's get everybody where they can talk to each other. And so we started a group on Flickr called Cookie Queens. And mostly because we didn't know what else to call it, I don't think, right? But and
It's the perfect name.
yeah, it back now I feel a little bit guilty about it, but back then it was just us, so it seemed appropriate. But
Exactly.
but
And then what the heck? My phone is ringing. All right, and then here's another shot here that Callye loaded, just a cute one.
Yeah, I
So
put arrows. So there's you and there's me.
yeah. So we were all being friends online, and then Lisa had of the Barefoot Baker. She was like a camp, like counselor type. They had a camp for kids.
Yeah, they have like a Baptist youth camp they ran. And she was like, I have the space if you all show up. And there was one before that I didn't go to. I don't think you went to that one,
No,
right?
I didn't go to that either.
I think that was back to before people used the internet as much. And I was still a little bit nervous about meeting strangers from
Yeah,
online.
I mean, it was a concern. I remember, like, that's it. It's a little nerve wracking. Who are these people? You're paying to go. How weird is it going to be? You know?
Yeah, and
Sure.
we even have a picture. I should have grabbed that one from
Oh,
Flickr.
yes.
Where everybody's trying to kill Lisa twice because her son was like, "Why are you inviting all these
Internet weirdos?
Yes, exactly. And now it's just normal. We do cookie con and
Yeah, and everybody's perfectly normal. Yeah, so yeah, it was kind of like the beginning of really meeting your online friends and normalizing that they were real friends, right?
oh
That
yeah. And I mean it was just I kind of wonder what my life would have been like if I hadn't had that because I was probably pretty lonely. I didn't realize it, because I was busy. But for a long time with three little kids, it's really hard to get them out. And you girls were my only, there weren't even boys that did cookies back then, but you were my only contact with the outside world.
Me too. I have to say, like, I didn't have a ton of friends. I didn't have, it was like if you're a stay-at-home mom, like, and then it was your way to get like validation for
Yeah.
your art, right? We all knew when you did something and you like, were proud of your own thing, then the others that are saying, wow, that's really cool. Well, we understood that it really was very cool, right? So you're
Yeah.
getting that double kind of, instead of your mom saying, wow, that's really nice. It's
Right, exactly. It was your peers, and it really was it was a magical time. I think there was just so much joy, and we didn't have the tools, and we were just kind of learning our own style, and like I said, inventing ways to do these things.
yeah,
And each
because
one
there
of
was
us,
everybody's using cake stuff. There wasn't really a whole kind of really cookie
no
inventory, like there was no cookie, a turntable, there was no cookie really stuff, right?
right, and so like I think we were all just pretty delighted for the most part whenever somebody came up with a good idea and was ready for somebody else to try it. And then whenever somebody else tried it and said, hey, I did this and I added a little bit of something that made it better, it was just magical. It was
So fun.
It was
Yeah,
a good
really
time. But anyway, to my story, you all really play into this because like it seems like most of the choices that I made that led me to where I landed weren't actually my own idea or completely something that I thought on my own, because this wasn't a plan. It was just something.
It was life.
Yeah, it just happened that way. Well, anyway, I remember my mom telling me, "You better stop." Whenever Facebook pages came out, that's how old I am. I predate Facebook pages, Pinterest, Facebook. But I made a page, and my mom said, "Hey, you might want to stop posting that online. I think somebody will turn you in." And I remember being like, "Mom, nobody does that. Like, who cares that I'm making cookies?"
Just to explain, so you're selling your cookies and you're publicizing that you're selling cookies
Yes.
on Facebook. And so there's food laws and all that kind of stuff. And that's what
No cottage law in Texas at the time. And I just remember telling my mom, like, nobody's going to turn me in. Nobody does that. Everybody, like, there's always a tamale peddler and a cookie peddler, and but within a week, the health department showed up at my door, and I'm sure you remember because I was
it was crazy,
heartbroken. And I don't know that I would have been able to cope. Again, it was like that had become my world. It was the one thing that I had that was mine. All of my friends were peers in our community, and you all really got me through it, because there was like, I could tell my husband and he's going to be like, so what, do it anyway. Or I think there was a lot of pain for me wondering who turned me in, and not so much, there was anger, like I wasn't really bothering you, but there was also hurt because I don't like the idea of somebody not liking me. Well,
Mhm.
that's changing as I get older, but back then it just kind of hurt my soul that somebody might dislike me that much. And,
Mhm.
I've matured and see it a little bit different. I guess if you spend enough time online, you figure out it's easy to make people not like you. But back then it really hurt.
Just yes. Just
Yeah.
be good at something, they're not gonna like you.
Yeah. Or say something, make a comment.
Yeah.
The wrong color purple that day and you're gonna make some.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
But anyway, I didn't really know what to do. I think I mourned for about a week. And then B and Lisa, the Barefoot Baker and Cancun Cookies, both at the same time suggested that I start a blog. And it's embarrassing how ignorant I was to blogging. I realized that there were blogs, there were about maybe 3 cookie decorating blogs at the time. I
Really?
know,
Well, it was a needed thing on top of it. It
and
was a
I right, and it was Bridget Bake at 350, and it was Sweetopia, and Megan Mountford, the decorated cookie.
Oh, yes, yes.
Those were the blogs. And it's kind of funny because I will tell people that I attribute my success to them in some ways because, whenever that happened, after I mourned a little bit, I went around and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a blog." And I actually knew them because they had reached out through Flickr for permission to blog some of my designs that they'd found. And since I mean, not, I would have said yes anyway, but since I didn't even understand, I was like, go ahead, whatever. But I never really took a look at blogs. Like, I'm pretty
Mhm.
one track minded.
You were
And
focused on your orders.
yeah, exactly. I made so many, I didn't have
Yeah,
time to do anything but post pictures, talk to you, take care of my kids.
yeah.
But anyway, I asked them, and those women were so gracious, especially Bridget and Megan. And like now, I realize the magnitude of or what I asked them. Like, hey, I basically kind of want to be your competitor, and I don't know anything about this. Can you tell me what to do? Like
Yeah.
these days, that wouldn't go over very well, but I'll tell people to this day, I still, a lot of times, if I run into something on the internet I don't like or get in a situation I feel funny about, I still ask myself what Bridget would do because she was so graceful and so kind that I try to remind myself to behave in that manner because like I said, a, a cruel answer or an angry answer might have altered all of this because I tend to.
Well, of course, yes. Generosity, I mean, it's true, like, it's true willingness to share and it makes you feel like it almost, right? You're excited because somebody was kind to you, right? You're putting yourself out there asking and then they're nice and you feel like, oh, wow, like it's just nice. It's just a nice little circle of love.
Yes, and
Bit
that
cheesy.
formed the kind of person that I decided I wanted to be. I
That's
never,
awesome.
because I ran into people who weren't nice every once in a while on Flickr. We had those things.
Yeah, sure.
And every time that I ran into one of those, I'd be like, okay, you have 2 choices. I want to be the Bridget or I want to be.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, they helped me out, but I think to my credit, something that I did whenever I started my blog was I wanted to add something to the conversation that had not been said. Like like if you go in and you just throw out what everybody else is throwing out, you're not really adding anything interesting. And I made a decision at that moment in time that I was going to try to add my own voice to the conversation. And I did that by kind of sharing my in the trenches. What do you do if you didn't plan this project last minute or you don't have the money or access to these things? What do you do? And that was kind of the foundation of the blog.
I think the real world kind of um, element is huge because, right, like things go wrong when
Oh,
you've got 20 orders to make. Like if you crank them all out perfectly, you're a unicorn, right? Like this.
right. Or an Eddie, a printer. But that's it, like that was the interesting thing. And that was another thing that I believe that with all of my heart, Deanna, generosity begets generosity. That was a funny, this is like a tangent. Whenever I was younger, I got married very young and I moved to Navy Town. And one of the Navy girls that befriended me, we went shopping once, and I spent the most of my 20s broke, like beyond less than no money. And I remember going to the store with her, and I admired a tablecloth and put it back. It just wasn't in the cards. And a couple of days later, she showed up with it, and I was like, why did you buy me this? You don't have much more money than I did. And that's basically what she told me. Generosity begets generosity. And that has stuck with me. I tell my husband that all the time. Like, if you give to people, they give back freely with open hands. So most of the time. And if they don't, they're not your people. But anyway, that was a tangent. So I accidentally ended up a blogger, and that's another thing that I feel really fortunate about. I've really changed careers about 3 times in the 12, 13, 14 years I've been doing this. And I think that works for me, even though each career change wasn't, not career change, job change. It wasn't necessarily always fun. You and I were talking about how I like to learn the hard way. I don't make it easy on myself. But I also think that's what keeps me interested, because I need to be learning or I kind of stagnate. Like once I stop learning and it loses the charm, I get bored and I want to move on. But
Yeah, well, I think if just to show like these are some of Callie's older platters. She'd make these huge platters and she was cranking them out. I remember she'd post, let's say she was, usually you deliver your orders on the weekend, and then she'd post all her pictures, let's say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and she'd post like, I don't know how many pictures. I'm like, what, do you have a crew at your house making all these cookies, And I think that that's one of the things, because you were making so many cookies, in my mind, for me, observing it, streamlining your designs just for the productivity aspect of it. Did that have anything to do with it? Like, this is your newer style.
No, it's weird. I should have done that a long time ago, but in the early days, I was spending so much time learning and trying all the new techniques that I was willing to go the extra mile. Like as we were looking at some of the images where it says, if I click on it, will it show it? Like the beginning of and learning my style, I wanted to try everything. I think of my design as kind of like a heel.
An art?
Yes, I had to do everything to see if I could do it. And then once I'd mastered it, I was like, okay, let's figure out how to do this, what works for me. Yeah, like the lazy way. I joke about that, but I don't want to spend so much time on something that it becomes not fun at this point. And anyway, I think this is so weird. The cleaning up of my style and really developing it. I ended up with the product development job. And at that time, life got hard. That is the second hardest time of maybe the third hardest time of my adult life now.
So let me just roll, for those of you that aren't aware. So Callye collaborates with American Crafts, and she's the face behind Sweet Sugarbelle, like the cookie cutters, all the stuff you see at Michael's. She was on the it's a home shopping network in England. And so all these amazing designs and products, all Callye. So that's what you're saying, your product development. So she was making cookies, blogging, and then now this American Crafts.
Should kind of in depth explain how that happened, because it's funny. It's not what I think people say, how did you get connected? How did you, like, they wondered who I talked to get the opportunity. And it started as an email, and I'm glad I checked my email. Goodness knows why, because I'm not a good email checker. And whenever I first saw it, I thought it was a scam, just like those. I need
Like the
8,000
book, like
cookies.
the book idea book. Remember the book?
Yes, exactly. So I was like, I don't think this is true, but
Just in case.
yeah. And it's funny because I didn't even respond to most of the books or I need 30,000 cookies catered this weekend. I'll send you 3,600. Like I just knew, but I started investigating and looking around, and I really, even after they agreed to pay for tickets, I said, okay, I'll come. Will you pay for tickets? By the way, will you pay for tickets for my son and daughter? Because I mean, my husband and daughter, because I had Liv, and I was kind of scared to go without Bernie because it was so weird. Like,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I don't think I believed them until I was sitting in the showroom. So they bought Bernie tickets, they booked our hotel room, rented a car, and whenever let me rewind a little bit. Well, no, we'll go this way. Whenever I get to the building, at the time, they're just kind of in a leased office space. I think it's 3 stories high. And at the time, the sales was on the bottom floor, and the design and product development was on the top floor. And sandwich in the middle was an FBI office.
Really?
Yes. So I get to this building and it is high security, and I'm like, I'm gonna
What's
get
happening here?
or somebody Google search history has finally gotten me in trouble. I'm under arrest or something. Like, but
Well, that's interesting.
I think I was sitting in the showroom, and like I didn't say much. We go in, I go to this office, and I'm like, this is crazy. And I had verified a few, like I'd looked at their products, went to Michael's to see if it was legit, looked up their CEO on LinkedIn. And I'm sitting at this table, and she has me sign a non-disclosure, and I'm like, okay, this is good for me too, because it goes both ways. Like, and then we go into this showroom, which was incredible because I'm like, they really do make stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sit down, and it's weird because the first thing in my head, like to say, was like, hey, I get what you're saying now. Like, I believe it. And it's almost like I didn't understand until I was sitting there. Just the puzzle pieces fell in. And I was like, oh, they really. And the first thing I said was like, hey, if you're going to want to put my name on a bunch of cheap stuff from China, I don't want to do that. So I'm the wrong person. And it, like, I mean, there's fluctuations. You have to learn each other. But when they said no, I think I didn't speak much after that, which is weird because I think I was just so bowled over at the fact that I was getting this opportunity that was more than my wildest dreams.
Mm-hmm.
That I couldn't even talk because they were kind of like, what do you think? How are you feeling? I'm like, I don't know. Like,
Well, they had already, so for them, like they're bringing you into a secret that they basically had kind of designed, right? Like they're not paying your plane ticket with your husband if they didn't think you were a viable investment, right? So they already have their plan. And then here, sit down. We're laying this at your feet, and you have to be like digesting it all. Like you still don't, right?
I'm catching up with what this means, and still trying to be smart because I'd been burned a couple of times by these, what we were talking about, these amazing opportunities.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I didn't even know what to say. And it's been a completely weird, like surreal experience. It hasn't always been fun. It's rarely easy, but I have a friend that says, hey, if you make a mistake, don't think of it like that. Just consider it tuition. Like if your mistake costs you money, nobody can get through life without paying tuition. And I feel like I have a master's degree after like 7 years with them in something. Not sure what. But.
Well, the thing is you're constantly you're meeting with people that have degrees and their own experience and bringing all their knowledge to the table, and you get to partake in all that information, right? And then you get to, again, morph yourself into a better version.
Yes. And
I think,
like if you had asked me maybe 3 years ago, I would have been like, I hate this. I'm never doing it again. I'm quitting. This is the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I'd feel really terrible about that because some people would say, what a great opportunity. You're so lucky. And in my head, I would think, I'm kind of living a nightmare, but I can't say that because it sounds so ungrateful, you know?
Well, I think it's easy for outsiders to look at a situation and only see the positives, right? Oh, she's for sure making a ton of money. You know what I mean? Like visual, like the products are everywhere, oh, this or that. But I mean, for me as a person that's like kind of having to create stuff, I think when I see your stuff, I'm like the level of pressure to be inventive, to be creative, to be new, to be fresh, to come like, you know, oh, you did that now. You need to do it better. You need to do another amazing, you know, like your stuff sold
Right.
so well in that release. The next one has to be bigger, better. You can't, you know, go down. You always have to be selling more and more.
And it conflicts with how I like to do things, which is weird. And this is, I don't say this out loud very much, but it's kind of fresh on my mind. I told you we'd be really honest during this conversation. Somebody really hurt my feelings the other day because we had a conversation, and this has happened 3 or 4 times since I started, and it implied that I was the big guy stepping on the little guy. And I was really insulted because I don't think that a lot of people understand how licensing agreements work. And part of it's my fault, part of it's, just not knowing. But if we're really being honest, whenever all of these cutters are developed, I probably make 4 cents per cookie cutter. And that's just the way it is. That's the way it is for everybody. Like, it's not just me, it just depends on volume. So like when you sell a pair of Air Jordans, Michael Jordan is still not getting the majority of that money. He's getting very little compared to what Michael's gets. There's just such a high volume sold, it kind of adds up. But
Yes.
I think I was really, it hurt my feelings because that's the, sometimes in my head, the colossal joke. And it in a normal licensing agreement, it's exactly what I said I didn't want it to be. You put these kids, and I say kids because they're all young and I'm old. You put these kids to work, and basically they decide what they're going to make, send me a couple of mood boards, blah, blah, blah. I check it off, say that's good, and let it go. But that is not how I envisioned it. And I happened to get an attorney before we signed a contract. And so my hands are in it a lot more than what it would normally be. So it's not necessarily that I was meant to not be paid a lot. I took on a bigger role than we even knew. And we were both learning, you know what I mean? So we didn't know what it was going to be until it was.
I think that as a creative person, right, that's part of the joy. So if they're going to take that the whole fun out of the project, which is being creative and putting your name on it, right? Then
And
it's like, what's the point?
plus these things, right? Like Montreal Confections, it did not exist until you built it. It is your baby that you bore and raised and nurtured, and same with me. And different people can do different things. I've actually over the years thought about people that might have been a better fit for what initially the company had in mind. And I'm not the kind of person that can be like, oh, slap my name on it, I don't care if it works or not. And like, I just couldn't be okay with that. And that was hard for people in product development to understand. Like, I had to mature too, because I remember the guy, like the first run wasn't exactly like I wanted it to be. And there's a lot of reasons. Like initially I thought that, I don't know what I thought. Initially, I just thought that they didn't appreciate blah blah blah. But they're trying to work with what they know, and they're trying to incorporate what I'm telling them, and they're also they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. I didn't understand that either. And I'm saying, trust me, I know what I'm talking about. And how do you really? I mean, it's
It is a very complicated collaboration. It
yeah,
is complicated.
that's what I tell people. They're family in a lot of ways, but we have, like most normal families, we have a complicated relationship. And
Mhm.
it's changed over time. There's things that I'm really focused on the cutters, and we make tools and stuff, and there's so many things that go into it that I didn't understand. And this is a pretty good example. Suppose you're going to sell something to a big box store, right?
Mhm.
And they'll come and they'll say, "Hey, our website and our market research shows that people will like this." And I'm automatically like, "They won't. I know what they'll like. I live in this world." But it doesn't matter if I say that because they have market research. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Then I'll say, "Okay, I can work with that. Like, we'll do it." And then it's like, but these animal cutters that everybody loves, they have to turn into at least 2 or 3 different things. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. And I'm still, I start feeling that pressure you were talking about. Then they're like, oh, you can only do 12 and it has to have a toucan. And I'm like, okay, I'm starting to panic. Maybe
Why does it need a toucan?
because their market research said that
Toucans are popular.
Right. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. Then it goes to, but it can only cost this much because we have to sell it for this much. And I'm like, not my problem. I'll do the creative work. You do that. And then it gets to the point where they say it has to fit in a space this big, 4x4 box. And then I'm like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, and that's just consumerism in America. But I think it was a weird fit for me as a creative because I would rather get something right and be proud of it than meet all of those like restrictions. That's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean.
Well, there's a lot of parameters. I don't know, like there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of moving parts because of course at the end of the day it's about profits, right? And the product
100%.
selling, But I mean, I don't know. Back again in the day and seeing all the different cookiers. I don't know that anybody could have done it better. Really, your brain, because there's cookie brains come in all different shapes and sizes, and there's a very specific art to working within the shape as opposed to doing whatever and cutting the shape, right? Because to fit stuff in a pre-existing shape, you have to work within limitations, and usually creatives do not work within a box, right? They want to do their own thing. And so for your whole flip thing that you do, I don't know that anybody could have done it better. Really? I mean, when I see your stuff, I'm like, holy crap, man. Her brain is like, it's like the ultimate cookie brain because you see things like nobody else, like literally nobody else. Like when I see this photo to me, and you know that each of these is at least 2 or 3, 4 different things. I mean, it's like craziness. If you guys don't know, she has an Instagram where she just has fun. This is her flip account.
Yo, please follow my flip account. My other Instagram, my Sweet Sugarbelle Instagram page, that's kind of my baby. Like, as you work with a business, you lose certain things. But I held on to my Instagram for dear life, which is kind of funny because I don't use it a lot anymore because I just don't have the time to make cookies. But my share page is always active and it brings me so much joy. So I want everybody to come there because it reminds me of the early days where that delight and fun was there. And
well, the other day I was asking you, and do you scour or to find all these flips? Are they submitting your flips? Are they tagging you? How are you finding all these things? I mean, like,
that's kind of my guilty pleasure. You know how we were talking earlier about how we have our guilty pleasures, and I like watching the rainbow hairstyle pages.
yes.
I like watching minimalism videos, and I like scrolling through cookies. But that's all I see whenever I see cookies. Like I don't see and think, oh, I want to try that technique. I just see geometric shapes. Like that's just how
That's your wiring. Are
yeah.
you left-handed? Mary Jean is asking if you're left-handed.
No, I'm both.
Oh, you're ambidextrous.
Yeah, not completely cookie decorating. I'm right hand favored, but I can write with both. And I have weird habits. Like I wear my watch on the wrong hand. I iron backwards because I weirdly favor that side for certain things.
Jeremy is
Yeah. My friend saw her in Vegas and she said it was one of the best moments of her life. Oh, Sweet Garden Cakes. If you go to my share page, Nicole, she made her son with the beach body. Is that
Oh,
your
I saw
son?
it this morning. I saw it this morning.
And I would like to tell you this in person with my own voice. I was very appreciative. Like I said, hey, did you use the pencil? And she said, no, I wish I'd thought of that. And I said, hey, can I suggest that to you? And it was almost like you thought like it was bad you didn't think of the pencil. And I was like, no, I have a running catalog in my head, so I see what I see. But I appreciate you letting me share, and I appreciate you letting me add the suggestion too, because
Well, the thing is that's it. Your page is celebrates everybody's creativity, but also is a great resource for people who maybe have limited cutter collection, who don't have the 5,000 cutters, and they want to make certain unusual. Because you
right.
have some clips that I look at and I'm like, how does anybody, like the one that's popping in my head is the cake with the dad bought. I'm like, what the heck is
No,
that?
like how did and that's next level to even the stuff I can think of. Like I said, I think in geometric shapes. We joke because I have two genius brothers, and one of them's a geophysical engineer, and the other one's mechanical petroleum engineer. Then there's me that just wandered and was more artsy. But it's funny, I have that engineering brain. I'm just not
Yes, absolutely.
interested in mechanics like they are.
Mhm.
I apply it to art. So I do see things in moving parts and shapes, but it applies to cookies.
Yeah, like I have to say, like my brain is also a little, for the shapes and all that. And I sometimes wonder if I had bothered, like, because school was never my jam, so, but I
Takes
said,
too long and it's boring, right?
exactly, exactly. So much more fun to actually like be
And
doing,
That's
Yes, yes, yes.
that's what I tell people. I think it's that we're hands-on learners. It's not so much that we can't do school, but if I'm not doing something like making it, it's just not like
It's not
it.
fun.
But to tangent there again, I had a thought and I lost it. Oh, it's this is a side note. So there's like one story I want to tell about how
Oh,
I
go.
got the American Crafts job, and the other one about the funny thing about my product line and product development. Um,
Uh-huh.
I'm really into minimalism, believe it or not. Like, I like a highly curated environment and even life at this point. And that's a shift from where I started, because whenever I started, I had nothing and I felt this need to acquire. And then as life got more complicated and my brain got more full,
Busy, busy.
I
Mhm.
felt like I needed to clear out clutter or I couldn't think anymore. And so I got really interested in minimalism, and that applies to like my house. I like only having what I need. I like if I have art, it has to mean something like behind me, or, you know, and then it carried over to cookie cutters. And so now, like I have a strong opinion that if you have too many options, it actually um, hinders your creativity, if that makes sense.
I think it's true. I think it's true. Like the thing that I observe when I see the cutters that are on the market now is the overly kind of
Specific.
defined line, like that
Yeah.
very kind of really defined line, which doesn't give you a whole lot of flexibility if you have like the arm exactly positioned with the thumb and the shoulder and the everything.
Like
And
it doesn't even allow a lot of room for other people's style to show through.
exactly,
But
exactly.
anyway, that's another, like I tell my husband, that's my latest word, the colossal joke, like irony, is that I'm in product development and I really believe I could probably make 300 cutters and never need another one again unless I just got bored. But that's
Yes. Well, your designs are like, that's the thing that's great is you look at them and you're like, oh, okay, I could do this, this, and this. It's really genius at the end of the day. And aren't we supposed to be going towards that when talk about reducing and all, you know, like to try to make products that are more multifunctional, right? Like,
That's exactly. And like, of course I use plastic, but that plastic, especially the runs after the first one, the first run of cutters was kind of a learning experience.
uh-huh.
But after the first run, they're pretty great quality. They should last forever and ever.
Oh
Like,
yeah, they are. They're
and
great.
so
I like how they feel.
yeah, I that it's so much fun how we like just I got to say some things like they have to be that deep and this is why, and it has to have this and this is why. And I mean, we came from a place where we were fighting over millimeters. Like, no, it needs to be this many millimeters higher. And then somebody'd come back and say, but it costs this much more. Like, so I'm glad where it landed. We had to move factories. They've molded so many shapeshifters at this point that we had to redo the molds and move factories. And so, like I said, I used to think that they just didn't want me to do what I wanted to do, and I didn't understand. But as I matured, I've noticed that the trust level has changed, and they let me do a lot of what I want to do most of the time, within reason.
Well, I think that at the end of the day, right, it's about the fact that they see your products are selling.
Yes.
Trust me,
Oh, yeah.
cows come home. But I mean, okay, she said it, but now when she said it and we did it, it sold. So
Right.
now they kind of know. So here, why don't do you have a little scoop of when your next release might be?
Um,
When's your next kind of product?
that's I don't even know. It was supposed to
Don't
be
know.
COVID. Like
Yeah.
I was a little bit worried about that. I was telling you sometimes I sit on things for so long, 1 to 2 years, depending what retailers do.
Really?
Yeah, by the time it comes out, I'm kind of tired of it because I've
Yeah,
looked at
it's
it.
not
But
fun anymore. Yeah.
um, the first time that I thought I saw somebody using I think it's a Sizzix machine to make embossed parchment.
Yeah.
I submitted it at a meeting, and so we've been supposed to have an embossed parchment collection in Michael since 2020. But whenever COVID happened and the supply chain got interrupted, uh, parchment transfers in craft stores get pretty low on the totem pole. But they're supposed to end up in Michael's. I don't even know if it's this June or next
Well,
June.
the thing is if you watch the news, China is still dealing with COVID. So I don't know that we're going to see normal.
Yeah,
Um,
and I don't even think those are coming from there, but like we're supposed to have parchment coming. There's a few other tools. There's a simple handheld airbrush that you can put colored markers in just for people who want the
oh
very.
yes, yes, I've seen that like on the
Yes,
craft side.
there's a food color marker version of that
Uh-huh.
coming. So
Okay.
it's coming. I can't even tell you when at this point because it's been um I don't even like to tell people because I'm basically lying because there's so many factors that go into it that I don't know when it'll be here. But as I see, like, since I'm connected with the community, I still stress sometimes. And as I see more embossed parchment coming out that people are selling, I'm like, oh gosh, like they're gonna think I stole their plan. They're gonna think, but it's just part of it. It takes
Takes a long time.
yeah, as quick as possible. It takes about 6 months to get something
Was
moving,
that
but
about the first? How long did it take? Between the first conversation that day where they laid it at your feet and you had that launch, how long was that?
it actually took a year and 2 months.
Really?
So we started talking July of, I'm not good with years, maybe 2015, I think. And we didn't actually, they released some products no, they introduced them by that January. They released it in small batches, maybe that May. And the first time that Michael saw it was in August of 2016, I think. And
Yeah,
I
because
really,
sold initially on the television with that, the shopping network, and then
yeah,
it went to Michael's.
yeah. And that's almost kind of the way it goes. You have to prove yourself over and over again. And you were right. You nailed it whenever you said that, because I would say this experience, whenever I started, I absolutely knew what I was doing and I was confident. And it crushed my confidence down to powdered rubble and I had to pick my, oh yeah, like there was a time with my husband, I was in a restaurant crying, like I was so embarrassed because I'm not a crier, and I wanted to not cry in a restaurant because we were trying to eat and I didn't want people to look at me, and
Mhm.
I was just crying. And I feel like that was kind of like rock bottom, and I had to build from there. And not only did I learn things, it's maturity. I matured a
But
lot.
when you go on the shopping network thing and you're on and like it's sold out, if I recall, like it's sold out very quickly. I mean, that's got to do a little something for you.
Well, that I hate that. I hate that gig. It's fun. Like the confidence wasn't really like I never really thought about my confidence as proving it to myself because that's my norm. I usually don't care what other people think. I just have to feel good about it. And that's the first time in my life that I'm like, trust me, trust me. And every time that they built to trust me a little bit more, that was like the greatest gift. And there's this guy I work with. I would butt heads with him. He's brilliant. He's a genius. But I would butt heads with him. But the first time that another one of my art directors was like, he said, "Do what you want. He trusts you." I wanted to print that out and put it on my fridge because it was the greatest. Like sometimes I like to villainize him because he's the one who has to tell me like
He has
real
to challenge you, right?
yeah, he does, and that's his job, and he's got a lot on the line too. He can't just take my trust me, but whenever he does trust me, it's good, and that I'll kind of flip to too. We've got new-ish stuff in Michael's. Some of it's not new, and we don't get to decide that Michael's does. We've got minis in smaller sets, and
Mhm.
those are what's already in the bigger boxes.
Mhm.
Michael didn't want to have too many big items.
Mhm.
But they let me redo Shapeshifters 1 and 2, and those I kind of love. I need to get on Instagram and do a
You mean
live.
they're reprints, like they're just of the same?
They're the same, but they're tweaked the way that I've always wanted them, and they're the sizes
Oh,
that are more comfortable. So, like when we first made them, they're like everything has to be 3.75, like width or height. And I was like, but that's wrong because depending on the cutter and the bulk, and there's a lot of difference. And this time I went through and like sized each one meticulously. We changed the paisley to a shape that I feel like is more appealing. The boy and girl cutters are more appealing to me because
back in the day when they discontinued the Wilton boy and girl. Remember I remember you liking those, and they discontinued the little boy and girl.
okay, so minimalist as I am, I have about 6 of those because when they discontinue things, it freaks me out. I'm a creature of habit. So I want to have a minimalist cookie cutter collection until something goes away. And then I'm like, give me 7. So I'm never without it. And I probably haven't used them in 7 or 8 years now. That's the funny part. But
Well, I mean, they're the things that the cutters. It's like that's such a big part of our life. I want to say, like, when I see people like going about purses or different things, it's funny because we're obsessed with like these little kind of at the end of the day, they're trinkets, right?
yeah.
They're so precious to us.
Well, I have these drawers that I store mine in, and they're very. I'm a freak, and I have 90 drawers, and I know what exactly is in each of them without a label. And I think people walk in and they're like, "Oh, those are cool" because they look cool, and then they're like, "There's all cookie cutters in there." And I always say, "Well, the last 2 rows are tools. They're not all cookie cutters," but they think we're crazy, you know.
I guess for the outside world, they would see it as crazy. I get it. I'm like, that's cool. I'm like,
I know. And I was so glad when I reached the point that I could afford these dream drawers to put them in, so I didn't have to
babies in.
afford bins. Yeah, but are we pretty close to time?
Yes, we are. So
Okay.
that was fun. Thanks for taking the time and sharing and visiting with us. If you want to go back, you can actually go back in the feed since we were so busy talking. If you want, you can go back in the feed and comment or get back to anybody if you see anything there that speaks to you. And thanks everybody for joining us, and be sure to go and follow here. Let me just put it, oh, it's on the screen. That's Callie's Flip Instagram, her baby that, where she shares all the kind of clever, some of the flips are your own, but you share a lot of other people's flips. So go
Yeah,
check it.
I don't, that's another conflict with big business. I don't think that I'm in a bubble. And I really don't like to limit myself only to my stuff. Like that's kind of sad. Or I'm so passionate about believing in the flipping that if I see a good 3D cutter shop flip, of course I'm going to show people. Why not teach them how to repurpose? I just don't think I'm a one woman show. So it would get pretty boring. So if people have flips that they use that aren't mine, or it's whatever.
Clever's clever.
Yeah, I love the creativity, and that's what I want to share. So I don't care who it belongs to. It's just I'm going to share it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Callye. It was nice visiting with you.
I'll go back and grab comments because I can't read and talk at the same time, and I see
it's
so
tough.
many.
Well, the thing is we lose the flow of the conversation if we do that, right? Too.
Yeah, exactly.
So thanks, Callye.
Thanks for inviting me.
Always my pleasure. And if you guys want to ask Callye questions, you can go in the feed of her Instagram and comment and on her little flip account, like I said. The other one, do you look at the other one?
Not very much. Every once in a while, I'll message somebody for permission to share something, and I know my Sweet Sugarbelle account has a better chance of getting through, but that's about all
you use it for.
One of these days, I'll make some cookies and post on there. Maybe 4th of July. We'll see.
All right. Bye, Callye.
Bye. See you later.